The British writer Ralph Smart once said, "There is no Wi-Fi in the forest, but I promise you will find a better connection." One and a half hours south of Green River Lakes, near the town of LaBarge, Wyoming, we found ourselves as far west as we'll travel on this trip. This is the location of Names Hill's historic site along US Highway 189. The steep cliff rises above the Green River as one of 3 locations along the Oregon Trail where immigrants registered their presence. The earliest carving date backs to 1822, making it the oldest pioneer inscription in Wyoming. The most famous inscription on Names Hill is that of mountain man Jim Bridger, who, despite reportedly not being able to read or write, left his mark here in 1844. Other inscriptions include pictographs left by the American Indians. As the pioneers moved west, they used landmarks and other natural structures like Names Hill to know where they were on their journey. It was getting late, so we decided to find a boondocking site on Bureau of Land Management property nearby, in an area that looked a lot like the Badlands in South Dakota. We found a road tucked back in the hills that would shield us from any wind and provided beautiful views of the red clay hills. A stray horse wandered by our side as evening grew quiet. We weren't sure if he was wild, lost, or a runaway, but he continued on his way, finding shelter for the night. In the morning, we packed up early and headed east, following the Oregon Trail in reverse order as we headed toward home. About 18 miles after travelers on the Oregon Trail cross the Continental Divide at South Pass, they reach a junction known as the Parting of the Ways. The right fork headed to Oregon, saving 46 miles and 2.5 days travel, but required crossing a waterless sagebrush desert. The left fork, sometimes referred to by diarists as the California Trail, continued southwest toward Fort Bridger and Salt Lake City. The 2 trails converged again farther on, offering more than one way to Oregon or California. As we continued on, we came to more landmarks that were important to early travelers. The Sweetwater Valley contains 3 distinctive granite landmarks: Independence Rock, Devil's Gate, and Split Rock. The westernmost of these, Split Rock, with its unforgettable gun sight notch, was visible to immigrants for 2 days or more as they approached it from the east, then left it behind them. 20 miles east of Split Rock, along the Oregon-California Mormon Trail, is Devil's Gate. Here, the Sweetwater River has carved a narrow cleft in the granite that is about 370 foot deep and 1,500 foot long. The cleft is 30 feet wide at the base, but nearly 300 feet at its top. Although it's too narrow for the wagons to pass through alongside the river, immigrants frequently stop to hike around these rocks and carve their names. The Visitor Center contains several exhibits that tell the Mormon and Immigration Trail story. Overnight camping and free tours are available, Also found at the site is Martin's Cove, the place where 500 Mormons took shelter from a deadly blizzard in 1856. For the pioneers, a day's travel east of Devil's Gate along Wyoming Highway 220 is the first major landmark travelers would have seen in this area of Wyoming. Independence Rock is a large round monolith of granite that stands 130 feet high, 1,900 feet long, and 850 feet wide. This isolated peak is at the southeast end of the Granite Mountains. Pioneering wagon parties bound for Oregon or California usually left the Missouri River in the early spring and hoped to reach the rock by Independence Day, July 4th, in order to reach their destinations before the first mountain snowfalls. Many travelers carved their names in the rock, which was described by early missionary and explorer Father Pierre-Jean Desmet in 1840 as the Register of the Desert. John C. Fremont camped a mile below this site in 1843 and made this entry in his expedition journal. Everywhere within 6 or 8 feet of the ground, where the surface is sufficiently smooth, and in some places 60 or 80 feet above, the rock is inscribed with names of travelers. Many a name famous in the history of this country, and some well known to science, are to be found among those of traders and travelers. The site was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1961 and is now part of the Independence Rock State Historic Site. Hiking is allowed on the rock, but please respect this piece of history to preserve this heritage for future generations. While we create a rough plan of all the places we want to visit during our travels, we often run across interesting sites that need to be explored. This was the case when about 35 miles east of Casper, Wyoming on US 25, I saw a sign saying Ayers Natural Bridge. My wife sighed because we were planning to drive east another 2 hours that day, but she agreed that we needed to see it. This natural bridge was set down in a canyon of red rock within a beautiful park. There, straddling the Lapeer Creek, is a large natural arch made of limestone. The bridge is only one of 3 natural bridges in the nation that span water. It is considered one of Wyoming's first tourist attractions, drawing trail-weary pioneers seeking reprieve from the Oregon Trail 1 mile to the south. In 1910, rancher Elva Ayers won a patent on the land, and in 1919 his son donated to the land to Converse County. Today, the Ayers Natural Bridge area has been turned into a park that offers walking paths, scenic views, trails, and a picture-perfect picnic pavilion. A limited number of free camping spots are also available for RVs under 30 feet in length, though donations are welcome. The park's caretakers live on the grounds and are happy to share information about the locale and its histories. No dogs are allowed in the park. We left Ayers Natural Bridge Park early in the morning, hoping to get quite a bit of driving in with just a few planned stops. Well, as I said before, getting to our next destination is hard. We spotted signs for Fort Laramie, and being a history buff, I just couldn't pass it up. This was well worth the time to visit. This fort was originally established as a private fur trade fort in 1834. By the 1840s, wagon trains rested and resupplied here, bound for Oregon, California, and Utah. Fort Laramie evolved into the largest and best-known military post in the Northern Plains before its abandonment in 1890. This post witnessed the entire saga of Americans' western expansion and Indian resistance to the encroachment on their territories. Scotts Bluff was an important landmark in the Pioneer Trails, which was visible at a distance towering 800 feet above the river valley. Between 1843 and 1869, over 250,000 westward emigrants passed this landmark. Next to Independence Rock, Scotts Bluff was the second most referred to landmark on the emigrant trails in pioneer journals and diaries. The monument's North Bluff was named after Hiram Scott, who was a clerk for the Rocky Mountain Fur Company and died near the bluff in 1828. This park, designated as a national monument in 1919, hosts over 100,000 annual visitors and has a visitor center, a road to the top viewing area, and hiking trails. The next stop was another prominent rock formation along the Oregon, California, and Mormon trails. Chimney Rock stands 325 feet above the valley floor in western Nebraska, with the spire measuring 120 feet. The spire has lost about 30 feet in the last 150 years, but still looks impressive. Chimney Rock was designated a National Historic Site in 1956. If you visited any of the landmarks along the Oregon, California, or Mormon trails, let us know your favorites in the comments below. We hope our Great American Adventure series inspires you to venture out and to explore this wonderful nation that we live in.
Hello, goodbye. Had a real good ride. Roads we're on may cross again. If they do, we'll see where things land. Until then, hello, goodbye.